There's a phenomenon in sociology known as disaster collectivism. It describes how in the aftermath of crises like natural disasters, acts of violence, or large-scale emergencies, ordinary people often come together in ways they wouldn't typically do. Strangers cooperate, hierarchies break down, and social solidarity emerges, even in the most chaotic environments. Researchers call this spontaneous cooperation communitas, a temporary state where social boundaries fade and survival becomes a shared responsibility. Unlike everyday life, where divisions and self-interest often dominate, moments of disaster reveal how quickly human instinct can shift towards unity and mutual aid. This isn't a theory built on idealism. It's been documented time and time again, from earthquakes and floods to public tragedies. In the face of uncertainty, people often choose to help each other, not because they are told to do so, but because survival, at its core, is rarely an individual pursuit. This is Watch Her Cook.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cassie.
And I'm Danielle.
Welcome back to Watch Her Cook, a podcast dedicated to sharing the incredible lives of women who have taken their power back throughout history.
I really loved the introduction today because it reminds me of like in times of panic or chaos to search for the helpers and search for the people who are running towards the problem and not away from it. And anytime I think of those people, I actually think of Al.
Really?
I do. Yeah, your fiance, for those who do not know who Al is.
That's very sweet. He would love that. He would be blushing right now if he heard you say that.
Well, maybe I'll tell him next time I see him.
He is definitely one of those people, though. Like, he sees chaos and he just says, how can I help? And I guess, like, being a first responder for a lot of his career and stuff probably has a lot to do with that. But he's so sweet, too, because even just small things, like if you see someone at the grocery store struggling to, like, carry their groceries, he's, like, first to run over. If you see someone going down we've literally been driving down the road and he saw someone in a wheelchair who had to like pull themselves uphill a little bit and they were struggling and we were at a red light and he like jumped out of the car and ran and like pushed them up the little hill.
Oh, see, like it's like that. It's big to small things like that that really differentiate people of like, you're not doing it because other people are looking at you and you feel like pressure to do it or like, oh, I'm going to do it so I can get some sort of recognition.
Yeah.
You know, you're just doing it because in your heart, you know, it's the right thing. And I've met a lot of people like that, but Al seems to come to mind at my forefront, maybe just because he's such a big part of your life and you're like the hugest part of my life right now. We see each other every single day. But today we are talking not about Al. We're talking about an unbelievably amazing woman who put her life on the line in the 1980s for hundreds of other people.
And today is, I will say, just for this episode, it's kind of a tough episode, especially as people who were alive and witnessed the unfoldings of 9/11 and a plane terrorist attack. I think whenever we hear stories of terrorist attacks, we can't help but, of course, remember that day in American history. And this is definitely an episode that brings up the same feelings of that and gives you really a firsthand perspective of, I mean, when I was learning about this episode prior to what we're about to tell you all, I was envisioning what was happening inside the planes during 9/11 for a lot of it. And I have a feeling that a lot of people listening are going to resonate in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into it. In the early hours of September 5th, 1986, a routine flight from Bombay to New York became the stage for one of aviation's most extraordinary displays of courage. Aboard Pan Am Flight 73, 22-year-old Neerja Bhanot and her fellow flight attendants were confronted with a brutal act of terrorism, forcing them to make decisions that would determine the fate of hundreds on board.
Neerja Bhanot was born on September 7th, 1963, in Chandigarh, India, to Harish and Ramona Bhanot. When her father, Harish, a journalist for the Hindustan Times, learned he was having a daughter after 2 sons, he famously thanked the doctors twice, delighted by the news. Neerja was affectionately called Lado, a Punjabi term meaning beloved one. She began her education at Sacred Heart Senior Secondary School in Chandigarh. In 1974, her family relocated to Bombay, now Mumbai, where she attended the Bombay Scottish School, later graduating from St. Xavier's College. Both were top institutions.
While in college, Neerja was spotted by a modeling scout, reportedly for a Girl Next Door feature in Bombay magazine. One classmate remembered how she once cut her hair into a chic, blunt style, and everyone was, quote, struck by how beautiful she looked. And this became Neerja's signature look, which I gotta say is not easy to pull off. A chic, like blunt, sharp haircut is not for everyone, certainly not for me. I don't think people...
Your face card has to be insane to cut up. I've rocked the mushroom cut. I've had the chemical cut where I fried all my hair off. I've done the shortcuts and my face just doesn't enjoy it.
Your face couldn't pull the weight, you know, and that's okay because mine couldn't either. But I mean, if you look up photos of her, and we'll get into, I mean, she became a model and made some money in some of her livelihood off of how she looked, but she was extremely beautiful and her hair could be doing whatever. And I'm sure we would all still think that.
I mean, to be approached just in your daily life by a modeling scout is kind of rare. I don't know anyone, I don't think, that's been approached by a modeling scout just living their daily life.
No.
Like at the grocery store and someone's like, wait, you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen.
You're stunning.
Like, thank you.
I also think the legitimacy of that now, like if that actually happened, I don't think people would be like, you're the real deal because there are so many scammers and stuff. But this is
are you being kidnapped or are you being recruited?
Right. And that is the question. Well, that photo shoot marked the start of her modeling career. Her first professional offer came from the popular retail brand Pavel, and soon Neerja became a familiar face in both print and television ads. By the early 1980s, she had worked on more than 20 campaigns representing well-known names like Binaka toothpaste and Benzer department stores.
In 1985, at the age of 21, Neerja entered into an arranged marriage based on a matrimonial ad, which resulted in her moving to the Middle East to live with her husband. Though her parents supported her modeling career, societal pressure and traditional values likely influenced her decision to proceed with the marriage, hoping a dowry-free agreement would make for a fair and respectful partnership. And just for reference, like a dowry-free agreement is... dowry is like what you're like the monetary value you bring to a marriage. Like, I have a lot of money, so my husband gets a lot of money kind of thing. But 2 months after the wedding, Neerja returned to Bombay for a modeling assignment, and her parents soon discovered the truth. Neerja had been verbally abused, starved, losing 5 kilograms, and pressured for dowry, and she didn't even have the funds to call home.
In a letter dated September 16th, 1985, her husband wrote, "Right from the first day, I am unhappy with you. You have been of no use to me. You could not give me simple food. Even a poor man gives something to his daughter on her marriage. You are just a graduate. Your modeling success, I don't regard that as an achievement."
The rage.
Oh,
the rage I would feel.
I know. And just so belittling as well. Like, there's 2 things in there right off the bat that he's discrediting that are huge accomplishments. Number one, a graduate. We just talked about how she had graduated from top institutions. Like, that's no small thing. And then also your modeling success. Like, that's also a significant achievement and not easy. So those are 2 things off the bat that make up a lot of who she is that he's completely just doesn't care about at all.
And I think what he wrote is very telling, too, that he is very honed in on traditional values, just to say, you couldn't even give me simple food. It's like, what have you brought, sir? What are you bringing? Because it seems like you've been verbally abusive. You have starved her. She's living horribly. So what you're expecting something from her, but what are you bringing is my question.
Right. By this point, Neerja had decided that she would not be returning to the Middle East and was going to embark on the next chapter of her life at home in Bombay. Her father wrote back in retaliation, saying, quote, "Every word in your letter speaks of dowry. Your idea of a wife as a whole-time unpaid servant has not existed in our family. She has no intention of returning to your horror house." And to that I say, thank you, Dad.
Yeah. Love a dad who's supporting their daughter.
And it goes back to, again, like he was thanking the doctors, being like, thank you, when he discovered that she was a girl, like he was looking forward to welcoming a girl into his family, a daughter into his family. And clearly he loves and is devoted to her and does not want to see her harmed or hurt in any way, and just is sticking up for her.
Yeah.
He's like, this is not how we do it over here in our fam. Okay.
It's like, absolutely not. And I feel like it's really refreshing because I think a lot of times in these stories, we hear of women who they find out they're having a girl and the family is feels shame and wishes it wasn't so. So to see that kind of reverse where he's like, yes, it's very heartwarming. And you can tell just from this small amount of information that he's a very good dad.
Well, and also, like how you said, it's refreshing to hear. It's also refreshing to hear this aspect of an arranged marriage. Like, I think sometimes we hear the struggles that particularly the woman feels when entering an arranged marriage and then just doesn't have that support from her family. And she truly is like trapped and isolated and just stuck in that situation with no outside help or support. And this is completely different.
Going back to this letter, there was one part of her husband's abusive letters that particularly struck a chord with Neerja, and that was him referring to her as, quote, just a graduate. Neerja was determined to prove him wrong. And like you said, it's not just, you didn't just graduate. That's a huge honor. In early 1986, she applied for a flight attendant position with Pan Am. Pan Am, short for Pan America World Airways, was one of the most iconic and influential airlines of the 20th century. Established in 1927, Pan Am was considered a pioneer in international air travel, often recognized for its luxury service, innovation, and global reach. Throughout the 1960s and 70s, Pan Am operated the world's first commercial jet service and later introduced the Boeing 747, the aircraft that revolutionized long-haul travel. Which is kind of comical because now it's the airline that everyone's avoiding flying because there's so many issues with it. But at one point, people like Boeing 747s.
I know. As soon as I read that, I was like, Cassie is not a fan, but
I actively avoid 747s. I will take a different flight. I'll take a longer flight. I think that there's something genuinely going on with Boeing 747s, especially the Maxes, that we're just not investigating properly, even though there's been like huge disasters with them already. And it's going to take something really big for them to do something about it. And I will not be on that Boeing 747 because I won't book it when that happens. And please, Boeing 747, don't murk me because I just said that. Okay.
If you go missing, we know where to look.
It's because I spoke out.
You were a whistleblower. We get it.
I know nothing about 747s. It's just a hunch. So don't murk me. Okay. By the 1980s, despite financial challenges, Pan Am remained a force in international air travel, connecting major cities across continents.
At this time, the airline was launching recruitment for an all-Indian cabin crew for its India-Frankfurt routes. It is estimated that about 10,000 people applied for the role and only 80 were selected, one of them being Neerja. She was flown out to Miami for training where staff were so impressed with her that they appointed her head purser, meaning she was the head flight chief at only 22 years old.
I love that we just mentioned that she set out to prove her ex-husband wrong, that she wasn't just a graduate. And then she gets selected out of a 10,000 applicants, she's one of 80. That's so impressive. And I think speaks volumes to her work ethic.
And then to just kick that up a notch, of those 80, they're like, actually, you should be at the top of the top.
I'd send a selfie to him, flipping him off in the plane in the air.
Yeah, you definitely would.
I like to say I'm the bigger person, but I would not be.
And that's okay. One of my favorite things about my rental is the outdoor space, specifically the outdoor pizza oven. It's perfect for get-togethers and make your own pizza parties, but when I moved in, the space was lacking something, and that was decor. I really wanted to host a housewarming / MYOP party, but because schedules were hectic and crazy, I didn't have a ton of time to get the space prepared. But that was no worry with Wayfair. They got my items to me so fast, and the delivery was hassle-free. I needed some seating options, an outdoor rug, and some garden lighting for ambiance, and I got it all from Wayfair. They've got you covered for all your decor needs, from conversation sets, chase lounges, lawn games, planters, heaters, outdoor bars, and so much more. Their online section of outdoor items makes it super easy to find exactly what's right for you, what's calling to you, what your needs are, what the vibe you want to create is, and now is the time to do it. With summer upon us, everyone is really anxious to be outside, so make it stylish and comfortable with Wayfair. And for those rainy days, they've got you covered too. No matter your space or your budget, there's something for every style and home with free and easy delivery. Shop outdoor furniture, grills, lawn games, and way more for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to explore a huge outdoor selection. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
Do you think you have to spend a ton of money or hours in the kitchen to make a truly delicious dinner? You'd be wrong. With every plate, you can whip up incredible meals like crispy buffalo ranch chicken or cheesy Mexican street corn hash, and I promise they taste just as good as anything you'd get at a restaurant. Maybe better because you made it yourself and for way less money. The portions are generous, the ingredients are fresh, and the flavor genuinely impressive. Every plate is all about making dinner easy without cutting corners on the taste. You get everything you need delivered straight to your door, and the step-by-step recipes are clear, quick, and beginner-friendly. Most come together in 30 minutes or less. If you're stuck making the same meals over and over, this is your sign to mix it up. I love using every plate, and you will too. It's helped me really look forward to cooking again. Their rotating weekly recipes keep things interesting, and the value is honestly hard to beat. What are you waiting for? Dig into these flavor-packed meals your household will love. New customers can enjoy this special offer of only $1.99 a meal. Go to everyplate.com/podcast and use code WatchHerCook199 to get started. Applied as discount on first box, limited time only. The next chapter of Neerja's story unfolded on Friday, September 5th, 1986, a day that would change countless lives. She had been assigned to Pan Am Flight 73, scheduled to fly from Bombay to New York City with stopovers in Karachi, Pakistan, and Frankfurt, Germany. In the days leading up to the flight, Neerja had been juggling back-to-back modeling assignments with long hours on set and very little sleep. On Thursday night, she asked her mother to wake her 90 minutes before Pan Am's scheduled call time, which was set for 1:15 a.m. That night, her mother tried to convince her to take the day off and rest, but Neerja refused. She had made a commitment and wasn't one to walk away from her responsibilities. As she prepared to leave, she and her father talked about her upcoming 23rd birthday on September 7th, sharing a warm moment with her family before walking out the door.
As we mentioned earlier, the flight was operated on a Boeing 747-121, a massive 4-engine jumbo jet often referred to as the Queen of the Skies. As head purser, Neerja was responsible for coordinating the cabin crew and ensuring passenger safety across all classes on the aircraft. The crew was made up of 14 Indian flight attendants, along with a pilot, co-pilot, and engineer in the cockpit, who were all American.
The first leg of the flight was a routine segment from Bombay to Karachi, a brief journey of just over 2 hours. The exact number varies across sources, but most cite that the flight had between 360 to 390 passengers on board, including 9 infants. The aircraft touched down at Jinnah International Airport in Karachi at approximately 4:30 a.m. local time. What was meant to be a short stopover for passengers to get off and new ones to board quickly turned into a 16-hour nightmare.
Gunshots were fired outside of the aircraft as it was parked on the tarmac, and 4 men violently stormed onto the plane. Tragically, 2 Kuwait aircraft staff were killed in the commotion.
Two of the men were dressed in light blue uniform, almost identical to the uniform worn by Pakistani security guards. The other two men were dressed in traditional Pakistani attire, allowing them to blend in with local passengers. Their names were Jamal Sahid Abdul Rahim, also known as Fahad, Muhammad Abdullah Khalil Hussein Arayal, also known as Khalil, Muhammad Ahmed Al Munawar, also known as Mansour, and Zayed Hassan Abd Al Latif Safariani, also known as Mustafa, who was the ringleader. They made their way onto the plane by driving a vehicle disguised with flashing lights as a security van through the airport perimeters.
Each of the men were armed, two with assault rifles, one with a plastic belt studded with explosives, and the final with a briefcase that was filled with hand grenades. It quickly became clear what was unfolding. The plane was being hijacked.
This moment is really difficult to reflect on because you think about it, and it was so easy at this time for people to just go into the airport. And this is prior to 9/11. We know that security significantly changed around the world after this, but to just dress similarly to the security guards and drive up in a van and not be noticed.
Oh, I know.
That's crazy.
I know. Every time, I mean, we travel so often. I think that we travel at least a dozen times a year in times where we actually need to enter an airport and get on a plane. And as much as sometimes TSA can be really frustrating, and of course, it varies a little bit country to country as far as what security measures are in place and what you need to do and all of that. And sometimes it can be frustrating and it's long and travel days are hard, but I'm not exaggerating when I say every single time I start to get frustrated or annoyed with that. I don't think of this. Maybe now I will, to be honest, but I always think back to 9/11, and I'm just thankful that there are measures in place, and it's not perfect. I mean, there's been times, admittedly, I've forgotten that I have like a little Swiss Army knife on my keychain and it gets through. It actually got confiscated my last trip on the way back home. Like, it got through on my way out, and then on the way back, they're like, "What is this?" I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't even notice that." And clearly it got passed through on the way there. So it's not perfect, but it's at least a lot more than was in place before. And it's there for a reason. It's meant to keep everyone safe. And even though it can be frustrating at times, it's a safety precaution. And it's just like, we should be aware of that.
And getting back into the US after you're traveling to another country is also significantly harder than getting into a lot of other countries, I've found. I mean, we'll fly to a different country, go through regular security, get in, whatever. But when we're leaving that country, trying to board a plane that is directly going into the US, there is almost always a security line after the security that you've already gone into. The security line in the terminal, like at the boarding gate, there will be another one where they pull you aside. Or, I mean, I have been searched so much. In those boarding lines, and appreciate it because, again, like you said, I'm glad that there's security measures, but also can be frustrating. I mean, we had one flight where we were in Kenya flying into...
Oh, I sure remember this. Yeah.
We were in Kenya flying back to the US. It was our first stop from Kenya would be the US. And we were in this huge line of security. They were making everyone go through. So our plane was delayed. There were probably like hundreds of us in this tiny corner of the airport. And I got randomly selected to be searched, which is funny because I'm always randomly selected. And I think it's because of my last name, but whatever. But anyway, I get to this table, and my bag, for context, my bag is filled to the brim with stuff. I overpacked. I had been gone for a month. I had only a carry-on suitcase, so I had put everything I could in it. And it was I had to sit on top of it to close it. And I go up to the security guard. He's smiling, super nice. He's like, "Okay, I'm going to check your bag. Do you have any like sharp objects, explosives, whatever?" And I'm like, "No." And then he's going to open the zipper and he's like having a hard time moving it. And me, so dumb, say, because I was worried that everything was going to come flying out of it because it was so full, I go, be careful, it might explode. And
she did what you shouldn't do.
His friendly demeanor, where he was like looking at me and smiling and saying hi, his face turned so fast. And it was very obvious that English was his second language. So he was like, excuse me, what did you just say? And I was like, oh, be careful. It's really full of stuff. And I just like corrected myself so quickly. I was like, it was hard to close. And he was like, oh, okay. And like returned to his friendly demeanor. But I was like, I'm getting arrested in Kenya for sure. And they're going to search all of my belongings.
Yeah, it was not a good move on your part, but
I almost got stuck in Kenya for
you
would leave me.
I didn't know what was going on. Like I was already on my way homebound.
Noted. Well, going back to the story, they've reached the plane. It's clearly being hijacked. And trained for exactly this type of scenario, Neerja immediately followed hijacking protocols to inform the cockpit. Some sources report that she was able to discreetly give the code word through the intercom, while others relayed that Neerja shouted the code word, allowing for another cabin member to input it into their system. Thanks to her swift action, the 3 people in the cockpit, the pilot, co-pilot, and the engineer, were able to discreetly escape through the emergency hatchet, a moment that proved to be critical for what was about to follow.
Neerja recognized that the chain of command had effectively shifted to her. Mustafa allegedly fired his weapon at the feet of a flight attendant to intimidate the crew into sealing the aircraft door. He then threatened another attendant, Sunshine Vezuala, ordering her to lead them to the cockpit under threat of shooting Neerja if she resisted.
When the hijackers burst into the cockpit and found it empty, their plan was foiled. The men had affiliation with the Abu Nidal organization, a notorious Palestinian militant group responsible for several acts of terrorism during that era. In fact, the terrorist group had successfully taken control of a plane in Nice, France 10 years earlier, basically to the day. Their intention for hijacking the plane varies. Some accounts state that they were looking to redirect the plane to Larnaca, Cyprus, where they could free incarcerated terrorists from a Cypriot prison. Other accounts say that they wanted to fly the plane to cause terror in Israel. However, there was now a key missing component. There was no one on board to fly the plane.
The hijackers needed a plan B. They decided to target American passengers as the United States had an alliance with Israel. Therefore, they singled out Rajesh Kumar. They were able to identify him as an American by demanding to see passengers' passports. Kumar was a 29-year-old Indian-American man who had only recently been given American citizenship. He was taken to the front of the plane and forced to kneel with his hands behind his head.
Mahergi Karis, a 28-year-old mechanic on board, was instructed to make radio contact with negotiators outside, who communicated back through a megaphone. Mustafa made it clear to the Pakistani officials on the tarmac that if a pilot was not sent to the plane within 30 minutes, Kumar would be shot. It didn't take long before the hijackers grew impatient and shot Kumar in the back of the head before throwing his body off the plane. He was reportedly still breathing when placed in the ambulance, but was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital.
With Kumar gone and still no pilot on board, the terrorists demanded that the cabin crew collect all the passenger passports, specifically the Americans'. As the flight was making stops in various places around the world, the passengers were a range of nationalities, including Indian, American, Mexican, and British. After witnessing the horrific events that had just unfolded with Kumar, Neerja quickly realized the danger posed to the American passengers. Thinking fast, she instructed the flight attendants to hide as many American passports as possible. Another of the standout heroes was flight attendant Sunshine, whose courage also played a vital role in protecting lives. As she collected passports, she made a brave choice. She placed only the passports of brown-skinned Americans, particularly those with Pakistani or Indian names, into the collection bag. She knew that passengers who were white and American would be more likely to be singled out. To shield them, she discreetly hid their passports under seats or disposed of them down the garbage chute.
When the terrorists later demanded the passports be dumped onto the floor and for all American documents to be handed over, Sunshine managed to stealthily hide a few more right under their noses. During this time, Neerja had allegedly also ripped out a page of an emergency exit manual, buried it into a magazine, and handed it to a passenger, instructing him to read it.
The hijackers opened the passports and called their next hostage, Michael John Thexton. Unexpectedly, he was not American, but a 27-year-old British man who had recently traveled to Pakistan for a mountaineering expedition, honoring the memory of his late brother, a doctor and avid climber who had died on a similar trip. Michael was told to kneel, unaware that Kumar had been executed and his body thrown from the plane just hours earlier. When questioned about his occupation, Michael replied that he was a teacher, hoping to appear non-threatening, even though he was really an accountant.
In later interviews, Michael recalled the harrowing experience of being held at the front of the aircraft for 12 hours. During that time, he engaged in brief conversations with the hijackers, explaining to one of them that his brother had died a few years prior, and he didn't want his parents to be childless. But even as Michael pleaded for his life, the hijackers' focus shifted back to the negotiations with officials outside the aircraft, issuing another demand. They wanted the Pakistani authorities to send in a pilot who spoke Arabic. If anyone else tried to get on board, they warned the officials that Michael would be shot. They also told authorities that they would release women and children if their demands were met by 7 p.m.
Throughout the ordeal, music played in a continuous loop over the plane's speakers. The cabin crew worked together, comforting passengers, making lighthearted talk with the hijackers, and carrying out their duties of serving water, sandwiches, and coffee. Michael also added that every announcement was made by the cabin crew, started with, "Ladies and gentlemen," and was shared in a polite and calming way, despite the horrors that were unfolding.
What are your thoughts about that? Like, how do you think them acting that way, and it kind of feels like they're acting like everything's okay, nothing's wrong. How do you think that affected the passengers?
I think I can see a way in which some passengers may have been kind of frustrated by that, because it's kind of like, maybe you could see, all right, you're blatantly ignoring like the life and death situation that we're in right now, and not making light of it, but just kind of trying to skim over it.
Like, how are you serving me coffee right now? When
by continuing.
Someone was just shot.
Yeah, right. It's like, I don't need tea. Someone just was killed point blank in front of me. Like, please, I don't need a finger sandwich. But at the same time, there's a reason for what they're doing, and they're trying to ease people as much as possible with what they have. Like, I'm sure in this moment, they're equally, if not more, panicked and frightened and scared, but they have this certain set of tools that they can utilize to help keep people calm and as comfortable as possible in a really, really harrowing situation. And they're doing all that they can. And for that, I think is so brave, because there are people too. They're in the same exact position and they could just as easily lose their crap. And they're not.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that there is something to be said where the people who are in charge and leading this to stay calm influences the whole group, because when you're looking at the leader of something, if they're panicking, it's going to add to your panic, and it's going to add to this massive chaos. I know when I'm sitting on a flight and I start feeling like bumps and turbulence or a weird noise in the plane, I look straight at the flight attendants and I'm like, are they freaking out? Because if they're freaking out, then I know something's wrong. But if all is well in their land, I'm good.
And they're just scrolling on their phone. They're chit-chatting with each other.
Not even noticing.
Oh. Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm holding on for dear life and like preparing for death. Yeah. So I feel like they set the tone for it to be as calm and collected as it could be in a bad situation.
Yeah. And also, I think that, I know we talked a lot about and kind of made light of Neerja's, like, how she was selected in her modeling career for her beauty. And then when she was selected out of the 10,000 applicants and then bumped to the top, and like, you know, I'm not saying that she just got that because of her looks, but this just goes to show that like she was very deserving of this position here, it being the chief and like the head, because right off the bat, she has gone into this mode of, I mean, remember, she's only 22 years old. And she's in this mode of, I'm taking charge. This is what we can do. This is what everyone else needs to do. And let's execute this as calmly as possible while staying in as much control as we can. And let's lead by example. And that example is calm, cool, and collected.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show for me, especially that, like she was so deserving of that position.
Yeah. And she's problem solving in it, right? She sees that they're targeting Americans. And then even though this was for sure a risk to her own life, she immediately recognizes that she needs to protect these people and hide their passports, which she could have been caught, and the other flight attendants as well, Sunshine and everyone who was involved in this. They could have been caught in 2 seconds, and that could have meant the end of their life, but they recognized who was in most danger and they tried to mitigate that. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've got this problem. I want to eat healthier, but I just don't have the time or energy to plan it all out, let alone roam the grocery store aisles after a long day. I get overwhelmed, grab random stuff, and end up eating the same 3 meals on repeat. But that has all changed thanks to Hungry Root. It's honestly the easiest way I've found to eat healthy without the stress. Hungry Root is having your own personal nutritionist and grocery shopper rolled into one. You tell them your dietary preferences, health goals, even the foods you don't like, and they fill your cart with smart, personalized recommendations. The best part, it gets better over time. The more you use it, the more it learns what you like. Whether you're looking to go gluten-free, dairy-free, high-protein, anti-inflammatory, you name it, Hungry Root's got options. And the meals, so quick. I've made full dinners in 15 minutes flat. Plus, they don't just send meals. You get healthy snacks, smoothies, ready-to-eat foods, even supplements. And everything is made with clean ingredients. No artificial junk, no weird preservatives. I've discovered so many new things I never would have picked out on my own, and I've actually been excited to cook again. I really do love it, and I know you will too. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/watchhercook and use code watchhercook. That's hungryroot.com/watchhercook. Code watchhercook to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/watchhercook. Code watch her cook.
Breaking up is never easy, but saying goodbye to your old clunky work tools? Well, that's easy. Just repeat after me. It's not me, it's definitely you. You rigid, unfriendly software. It's time to freshen things up with Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use. With stunning dashboards, customizable templates, and built-in AI that actually works, switching to a new work platform has never felt this good. So move on to Monday.com.
At around 6:30 p.m., Pakistani officials trying to buy time replied that they were still searching for a suitable pilot, but inside the aircraft, conditions were rapidly deteriorating. The plane's power generator, used to keep lights and air circulation running while grounded, was failing. Mahergi told Mustafa that the energy power would last about 15 more minutes. Michael, who was still sitting on the ground at the front of the plane, was let go and instructed to return to his seat.
The lights began to flicker and the air conditioning was cutting in and out, eventually plunging the cabin into heat and darkness. Then chaos erupted. In the confusion, perhaps from the hijackers believing their operation was about to be overrun, one of them attempted to shoot at another's explosive belt, intending to blow up the aircraft with everyone inside. Fortunately, the explosive was only partially discharged, triggering a small blast but failing to destroy the plane.
This started a chain of events. The gunmen began spraying the cabin with bullets. Screams filled the darkened aircraft as people tried to duck for cover, shield children, or crawl to the exits. Amid the gunfire, Neerja leapt into action once again. She bolted to an emergency exit door, but the inflatable slide failed to deploy. Passengers began jumping out of the aircraft onto the tarmac, which was an approximate 20-foot drop to the ground, risking broken bones just to escape the terror.
Meanwhile, another emergency exit was opened, reportedly by the passenger whom Neerja had earlier handed a safety manual in case evacuation became necessary. Instead of escaping herself, Neerja stayed behind to help others, guiding passengers down the chute to safety. Some of the passengers climbed out onto the wing of the aircraft, with cabin crew following for safety precautions. Not knowing what would happen next, Neerja and a few other crew members bravely re-entered the aircraft, continuing to assist the wounded and disoriented. It was in those final moments, as she shielded 3 young children with her own body, that Neerja's bravery met its ultimate test. One of the hijackers spotted her protecting the children, forced her to the ground, and shot her at close range.
I think through this whole episode, even knowing the outcome previously, I was rooting for her so much.
I know.
And then to see all that she's been doing to help these people, and then she is now targeted, is just so heartbreaking.
And I think it's also one thing to have one big courageous moment, one big act of bravery in a time like this, in a situation like this, and that you just, whether or not it was intentional, you just do it and you're celebrated for it, and you can be proud of yourself for making that leap. But with her case and the others that are alongside her, it's a repeated act. Like, it's not just a knee-jerk act of bravery. It's, okay, there's that decision. We got people off. No one was forcing her back into the plane to help others.
No. She had a chance to escape.
Yep. And she didn't, because she felt that it was her duty, whether professionally or just as a human being, to help others that she knew she could potentially save. And she did. And it cost her her life, but it's a risk that she was clearly very well aware of and okay with risking.
And just the evil that is, someone sees you protecting children and your reaction is to fire, is just, it's very heartbreaking. Once the shooting subsided, Pakistani commandos stormed the aircraft and arrested Mustafa. The remaining 3 were captured while attempting to flee the airport, and there was a final 5th accomplice who was caught soon after. All 5 were initially sentenced to death, though their sentences were later reduced to life imprisonment.
In 2001, Mustafa was released from a Pakistani prison, only to be arrested by the FBI in Bangkok. He was extradited to the United States, where he pled guilty and received a 160-year federal prison sentence. The other 4 hijackers were released in 2008 and deported to Palestinian territories. One of them was reportedly killed in a U.S. drone strike.
In a tribute to his daughter, Neerja Bhanot's father revealed that she did not die immediately. After the shooting ended, she bled for nearly 15 minutes. 2 of her fellow crew members helped guide her down the emergency slide before sliding down themselves. She was taken to an ambulance, still clinging to life, but succumbed to her injuries shortly afterward. It was just 2 days before her 23rd birthday.
While Neerja led with courage, she was not alone. The entire crew of Pan Am Flight 73 worked together under unimaginable circumstances. Each played a vital role in saving lives that day, ensuring that approximately 359 people made it out alive. Among them was flight attendant Sunshine Vezuwala, who made the life-saving decision to hide American passports, risking her own life to mislead the terrorists. Nupar Abral, another attendant who later described the terrifying ordeal and how the crew worked in sync, staying calm while offering reassurance to passengers, and Shireen Pavan, who helped evacuate passengers under gunfire. All crew members other than Neerja and plane mechanic Maherji survived.
After a recovery period, nearly all surviving crew members eventually returned to work at Pan Am. In recognition of her extraordinary bravery, Neerja was posthumously awarded the Ashoka Chakra, India's highest peacetime gallantry award, becoming the youngest recipient in the nation's history. Her courage was also acknowledged beyond India's borders. the government of Pakistan awarded her the Tamga-e Insaniyat, a civilian honor given for her humanitarian service.
In the United States, the Department of Justice recognized her with a special honor, highlighting her role in protecting American lives during an act of international terrorism. Over the years, Neerja's memory has been honored in a number of other ways. Streets have been named after her, and in 2004, India issued a postal stamp bearing her image. Her mother started the Neerja Bhanot Pan Am Trust, a foundation that honors Indian women who face social injustice and demonstrate courage. Her life stands as a beacon of bravery not only for women in India, but for people around the world.
Though over 20 lives were tragically lost, it was the flight crew's coordinated heroism led by Neerja that prevented a far greater tragedy. Her quick thinking, her refusal to abandon her responsibilities, and her sacrifice in the final moments ensured that hundreds would live to tell the story.
And as we said, Michael was one of those people who lived to tell the story among so many others. I mean, 20 people is not a small number, but comparatively to the potential of people who could have died that day, it is relatively small, and thanks to Neerja and her other coworkers. But Michael, has gone on to speak about his experience and what unfolded that day on the plane, and kind of because he was up there for 12 hours being held hostage, and he had a lot of interactions and discussions with the hijackers, which kind of gives a unique perspective on this experience because not everyone had that opportunity. And he did say that he shared the story of losing his brother with one of the hijackers that said it really touched that particular hijacker. And it was one of the reasons why he thinks he was let go. So I think it's just so interesting because it's such a brutal, they're killing people. And you just said, it's such a act of evil to kill someone who's shielding young children. So it's all this evil that they're unleashing. And yet that person was touched by the story of somebody's brother dying. And yet you're killing people who are also other people's brothers and siblings and parents and partners. It's so perplexing to me.
Yeah. People are so complicated. Because I agree, you see the other atrocities that they're committing, but this is what actually spoke to them and maybe was why he did live that day. But I just think it goes to show that even with an evil, human beings are still human beings, and there is something under that, even if whatever they're doing, it can be the most evil, there's still something under that. And for whatever reason, whatever that person's background was, something about a brother or parents being devastated by the loss of a child hit him somewhere, maybe from his own experience, maybe from someone he loved experience. I don't know. But I think it just goes to show that there is a human element to everyone, no matter how bad of decisions that they make.
Yeah. Well, to end this on not the focus of one of the hijackers, but Neerja, she's gone on to be in the hearts and minds of so many people, including us now, and to see that her family has gone on to honor her memory in such beautiful ways is really encouraging. And, she's somebody that I've seen her picture circulate before, and I didn't tie her to this story prior to researching it, but I think it's telling that I've seen her photo before. Her face and her name is out there and still being discussed and remembered for the act of bravery that she did that day and the difference that she made.
Beautifully said. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Watch Her Cook.
If you're looking to dive a little deeper into Neerja's story, we've dropped some sources for you in the description. Let us know what incredible women's stories you'd like to hear next.
And a big shout out to Sickbird Productions, who produces our podcast and helps bring these stories to life. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Watch Her Cook Podcast, leave a review, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Just a reminder, empowered women empower the world. Now let's go cook. See you next Wednesday.
As a business owner, you're not chasing the norm. You're building momentum. But but your bank wasn't made for modern money management. You need Relay, an online money management platform that moves as fast as you do. With Relay, you can open up to 20 accounts, so you can separate your cash for things like income, payroll, or operating expenses. All you need is a few minutes to sign up at relayfi.com/Spotify. That's relayfi.com/SPOTIFY. Relay is a financial technology company and is not a bank. Bank services provided by Thread Bank, member FDIC.
Build a polished wardrobe that shows you stay you wherever you go with Mack Weldon. Use code MAC25 for 25% off your first order of $125 or more at MackWeldon.com.